Right. Evening, everyone, and people who join will just have to catch up. I think to start with what I've done, and and it will make sense when I've explained. But Ayanda, can we chat about that separately, please? My number is here, Yanda, if you want it. We can chat tomorrow, okay? My number is there, so just grab it and we can chat tomorrow. Right. Guys, so what do we have would be a set of suggested case studies for the exam. Three of those case studies I'd seen before. So it is unlikely that we'll have them. Those case studies come from exams in first semester and from another subject. So I've taken those three case studies that I haven't seen before and that are likely to be the ones. How's it, Kim? That the ones that we'll see. What I did then is I had a glance at the content and then, based on the content, set a set of questions that if I were to set the exam, which I'm not, I would set these questions. So it's a bit of crystal balling. Now, the truth is, I did buy a crystal ball, but unfortunately, I bought it from Bargain Basket and it turned out to be a snow globe, and it possibly explained why it was always foggy when I shook it. But I really believe there are certain non-negotiables here, guys, and you'll see what the non-negotiables are. From Chinatown, yeah, bargain basket in Chinatown. So you must know how bad it was. It wasn't even glass. Right. So the first thing to discuss, and you'll see what the non-negotiables are as we go through it. The first thing to discuss, though, guys, is between Kim, myself, and M, we have got, I would imagine, 400 plus students just in this course, and then we also have a whole bunch more from other courses. So please do us a favor and make our life easy when you write. I think the most awful bit to write is somebody who, when they write, almost looks like it is a paint roller rolled and it's just letters on a page. So please make sure that you give us paragraphs, that you give us bits of headings, that you give us some sort of space to mark. So please pay attention at least to headings and subheadings in the layout. Because honestly, when you're marking as many papers as we do, it gets very, very tedious when somebody just writes without spaces, without paragraphs. It becomes really irritating. Okay, guys, please, please, please do that. The 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 questions then for each of these case studies. And again, guys, I looked at past papers and questions from past papers, typed those that we could see some sort of trend into these case studies, and then linked it honestly, very, very clearly to the content of the case studies. Now, the first question on each of these will always yeah, no, we can draw pictures, Gaston. Guys, the first picture now, Gaston's got me off track. The first question you'll see is always going to be one of the non-negotiables. So, one of the non-negotiables that you have to study is Learning Unit 1, and it is, and just to go to my favorite slide on this, it is the set of business level strategies. Now, you'll know that the business level strategies are those organizations adopt in order to compete within a particular industry. Kat will catch you up at the end, but the recording has been done. So these are your business level strategies. Now, to just say, in my exam for my full-time students, people didn't, when it said business level strategies, actually even some of them write cost provider, broad differentiation, the best value, etc. So for me, in terms of the people that have my slides, this slide is essential. Okay, absolutely essential that you know this by heart. So the first non-negotiable is the set of business level strategies. So you'll see what I've done in each of these papers. I have asked what the business strategy is adopted by the different case studies. To just again say, for people who've arrived late, these are the three case studies that haven't appeared in exams before. So for me, it'll come out of one of these three. And I think if you think of how it normally goes, this would be exam case, next would be the sup, and then the special, the third case. So really, you have to trust me on these ones here. But my crystal ball, as I said, turned out to be a snow globe. So the first one is your business level strategy. The second non-negotiable, guys, and again, you cannot jump away, skip away from this, because it is a non-negotiable, would be a question on evaluating the strategies. Now, if I had to set an A priority and a B priority, the A priority would be the business level strategy. This is a likely one, but it's a B priority in terms of this particular this particular learning unit. Yeah, so the people who are here and now asking for these documents, yeah, no, you'll get the document uploaded. Yeah, sorry, apologies. You'll get the document uploaded. My slides have been made available previously. They do ask it, and it's non-negotiable. So, but A priority, business level strategy, my students, you can study that and be quite comfortable that you'll be able to answer the first question. This might be in, but this is my B priority in this learning unit, but it also is a non-negotiable. So you'll see in terms of the documents, and they will be made available to you. My students should have it. The first one is the business level strategy, and then it is then evaluating the success within the context of King Price. Don't worry about the nerves. The next one is disruptive innovation. And the reason I believe disruptive innovation is the question here is, if we look at the case study, it really talks about their approach and the idea that it disrupted traditional pricing models. Now, again, if I were to set this paper, I would use this case study really well, because it really is a wonderful case study. So in terms of disruptive innovation, it is Learning Unit 2. Again, my students trust my slides. I also think the other lecturers would say the same thing. Trust their slides. I think we put a heck of a lot of time into getting these slides as close to perfect as possible. So just go to disruptive innovation, and then you'll see, obviously, in terms of disruptive innovation, the idea that it often renders industries completely obsolete. So one of the most obvious examples is a smartphone and Google, and how many industries it rendered completely obsolete. And the idea is that it causes waves within the context of a particular industry. So you can see, in terms of disruptive innovation, there are a couple of places my students use this. A lot of information on disruptive innovation, but the reality is that it changes the landscape within an industry. It rewrites the rules within an industry. And if it really is disruptive, it will destroy certain industries. So that is the second question. So again, when I look at this one, for me, non-negotiable, the idea that it is going to be on disruptive innovation. You will see that I've got other questions related to that as well. Closely tied to that, oh gosh, I've opened the wrong paper, my apologies. Closely tied to that is this one here. I honestly think that there will be a question on corporate strategy as well. So the second non-negotiable, or the third non-negotiable. So the first one, business level, the second one, evaluate. The third non-negotiable is going to be on corporate strategy. That is Learning Unit 4. And when you look at corporate level strategy, just remember, guys, I just want to close that, my apologies. The corporate level strategies that we look at are those there, the growth strategies. Please just be very careful. Don't just write growth strategy. Growth is a combination of strategies. If you are ask the question on diversification. Don't just write diversification. You have to tell us whether it's related to diversification, where the technologies used in the new business relate to the existing business, or whether it's unrelated, where businesses have moved into a completely new field unrelated to their technology. Don't just write diversification. So your growth strategies are those. Please don't just write growth strategies. That's not going to get you marks. Okay, you have to decide which one of those that you want to use. So in terms of that, I would say
also, Henny, can I just jump in here?
Yeah,
A mistake some of my students often make. So growth strategy being internal growth or external growth, organic growth or external growth. You can't just say growth. It obviously has to say whether it's organic growth or external growth. It'd be quite a big difference there.
100%. And if I had to suggest a strategy for King Price, it would be market development. They need to take their existing products to new customers. There could be a sense of market penetration as well, the idea of an unsaturated market where there's lots of advertising, but I think look at new markets. Okay, so that is the third non-negotiable. So the first non-negotiable, business level. The second one, evaluating business levels. The third one, corporate strategies. Guaranteed that you will see those. Unashi, businesses who use combinations run the risk of spreading themselves incredibly thin. So decide one and use one. Okay? Decide one and use one. Don't do a shotgun approach, because I know some people in their assignment did a shotgun approach where they wrote every single strategy as an answer. I mean, it drives us insane because it means you've not paid attention, but it also, businesses don't do that generally. Okay. Right, so corporate level strategy. There is nothing else here that is non-negotiable. I'll go through some of the others there. So the third non-negotiable is that. Here, you have to study most of that chapter, but we'll come back to disruptive innovation. Okay. So what I then looked at in terms of the context of here, you have to know those international competitive strategies. So that is Learning Unit 4. It is the one that you used for your assignment, but just there might be something on that, because we've seen that asked in the past. Sorry, it's that guy there. So if they said, if we were to move into another country, I just made up Zambia, what approach would they adopt? And you need to be able to answer that one as well. Some of the other stuff that come as trends, there's always a question. In the past have been a number of questions on strategic leadership. Strategic leadership, you will know, is Learning Unit 5, and then it'll talk about particularly this one, where is strategic leadership. My apologies. Sorry, it is in here somewhere, guys. Okay, so look for strategic leadership. That has been a question in the past, and it's a combination of managerial leadership and obviously visionary leadership. Then some of the others, guys, the King Price one, I would bet my salary that there should be a question on stakeholders, because you can see them referring to the stakeholders continuously and constantly referring to the importance of stakeholders, etc. Don't be surprised if there isn't a question on stakeholders. Stakeholders would be in Learning Unit 6. And yeah, the architecture, remember, we work in terms of architecture right to left, so your stakeholders should be there. Please remember, this is I would be very surprised, based on the content of that case study, that you won't have a question on stakeholders there. The other
also,
one that
just to jump in here, I've also seen a lot.
Yes.
I've also seen a lot on organizational architecture for my students, and I've told them to go back to that specific diagram. You know, the diagram, they need to know that diagram, because culture is asked all the time, stakeholders are asked all the time, technology is asked all the time, and you can apply it to most of the case studies. So I'd say it's a really nice application type of question that students could use. So I've told, it's number 7 on your slides, that one. I've told my full-time students, so on my online students as well, this diagram is vitally important because culture comes up all the time, stakeholders comes up, technology comes up very often, also from past papers.
Absolutely. And guys, you'll see in terms of this one here, when you read the case study, I would be very surprised if culture isn't raised here, because it talks about culture all the time. And just remember, the moment people start talking about values would always be considered your ideal culture, but you can see several references to culture. So again, I don't have a crystal ball, and other than the non-negotiables, my approach would be, and this is what I've told my full-time students, I would work out answers here. But you can't throw me under the bus if those don't come out perfectly. But I really believe that generally we're about 70-80% accurate in our predict. It is a one-person claim. We're about 70-80% accurate in terms of our predictions, but also we don't see the final papers. But I really believe that this, if I were to set the paper based on the content in the slides, based on past questions, and obviously based on the actual case study, it would look like that if they were to use the case study properly. Yeah, I know, Devol. We were lucky in 3A, though. I think, yeah, we are lucky. But the non-negotiables generally are always the two strategies, business level and corporate level strategies. The rest is, yeah, anywhere. But based on the information here, if they were to use the case study properly, I would use disruptive innovation as my question. So that's the second case. Now, remember, I only do 3 cases because the 3 other cases had appeared in other exams. So I'm not wasting my time or your time with that. Right. So this is case 5. Let me start with case 4 rather. Apologies about that. So Threads app, I have not seen this. I don't know, Kim, whether you guys have seen it, but I definitely have not seen it in any other papers.
No, I haven't seen it my side. Haven't seen it.
Yeah. So
also
here,
my side,
again,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, we're growing really nicely in numbers. My gosh. Right. So here again, business level strategy in terms of, the idea of what they should do. So if you look at the Threads app, it definitely suggests some form of differentiation, some form of uniqueness, because it is quite a populated market. So it would be, I'm sorry, and King's Price is a differentiated, it's a cost leadership differentiation, that sort of best value strategy. So yeah, so you can see for me this is differentiated, and you can have a discussion on differentiation strategy. Please remember, when you guys discuss this, please blend enough theory with enough application. So you have to know your theory, and it's again one of those non-negotiable theories. But also please remember that you have to give us aspects and extracts from the case study so that we can mark both the theory component effectively as well as the application component. Right. And again, this one I put in because for me it's a B priority non-negotiable. This one here, guys, I think it talks about the 5 dimensions of strategy for successful value innovators. I put that in because it's made appearances a number of times. I'm not sure whether it perfectly fits with the case study, but it is in strategic innovation, and it has made a number of appearances in past papers, and that's why I put this one in. And just, you can find the answers just by doing this, guys, because generally, and I think it's the next slide here. Yeah, so my apologies. Yeah, it's this one. This has been asked in the past, and we know that this is the kind of question they love to ask. I know that it doesn't perfectly match the case study, but I thought I needed to put in based on trends in the past and patterns from the past. Right. The other question is the idea of red and blue ocean strategies. I think it does really lend itself to that question rather than the sort of value innovators, those dimensions. I think that the question here will be red or blue ocean, because it is quite a red ocean now. There's so many social media sites similar to Twitter. We've got Donald Trump's rubbish, and also we now have Threads. You can have a glance at that. So don't be surprised if they ask the question on red or blue oceans. Make sure that you have that sorted as well. Right. This is the again, if I had to ask the question, I would ask it this way. Identify, discuss the corporate strategy adopted by Meta in launching Threads. So if we go back to our corporate strategy list, so if you think of it, it would be in all likelihood product development. You can argue also relate to diversification because the technology is the same. For me, it's more product development, but we'll accept both in terms of that. Hey, well, Threads used to be clothing wear, but we don't know what things are anymore. That to me is a likely one. So it could be product, but it's also related to diversification. Just choose one and write really effectively. Yeah, Ayanda, it is definitely a red ocean strategy. Yeah, that's the one. Truth Social, my gosh, the Trump one. Right. And then this one, just because I needed to find a question from globalization and learning unit 4. I think this could be a question. It unfortunately reflects what was in the assignment, but again, that might be the question. This one here, it does talk a bit about Mark Zuckerberg, so I've left it as a strategic leader. And then I think I put in here the idea of processes within the Learning Unit 8, the strategic architecture. You can have a look at it again, guys. So processes fit in there, but they can literally ask any of these aspects, as Emmett said. They could ask any of those. In my mind, we can possibly stretch a bit towards those processes that are used. Okay. So you can look at that. The next one, case 5, again, you'll see the non-negotiables. So the first one, business level strategy, adopted by Bathu, which, to be honest with you, this hasn't appeared before this case study. And you can see the kind of business level strategy. It is very much authentic and innovation. So you know that it's going to be a differentiation strategy. I don't believe it's differentiation focus. I think it's a broad differentiation strategy. It lends itself to that. There are a couple of words prompting that. The second question there, again, the idea of evaluate, and I put that in because it's those kind of non-negotiables. And then they talk quite a bit about the Theo Beloy as an entrepreneur. This has appeared once before, the Costa and McRae's dimensions of personality. And if you read it, if I were to set this paper, I would definitely ask that question. It just lends itself to that. So this is, again, apologies. Yeah, it's towards the end, the personality type. And again, I simply put it in because where it is, because it had been asked in the past and a lot of people were caught off guard by it. And also they talk so much about the entrepreneur in the actual case study. And for me, this question fits really well to that particular question, to that particular set of bits of information in the case study. For me, I thought the blue or red ocean, again, this would be a red ocean, but it's unique and you can discuss it. And then there's quite a bit, and we've not seen this question in quite a while, bottom of the pyramid. But when you look at the information here, it definitely lends itself to bottom of the pyramid. In terms of empowering people, there's a real shift and focusing on growing township, entrepreneurship, etc. For me, there's a really strong sense of bottom of the pyramid. And we haven't seen Bob for ages, guys. But this lends itself magically to that one. And then Yeah, and then corporate strategy
Dr.
in
Hilly,
terms of
to you.
yeah, go for it, Kim.
Just the bottom of the pyramid, I pulled out a paper from 2021. Obviously, I've been lecturing on the program for a
Oh,
while, and there was a lot of BOP in it. I actually did it in class today, bottom of the pyramid. I also thought we haven't seen it in a
wonderful,
while, and I did it
wonderful.
in class today.
Yeah,
So I also totally agree with bottom of the
fantastic.
pyramid being there.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so it's been 3 years since I've asked it, guys. And then, yeah, in terms of corporate strategy, and remember this idea of continuous innovation, it's going to be a market development type strategy. And I can't spell clearly. And then, yeah, I didn't know what to do, but a question that we haven't seen in a while is the foreign entry modes. If he were to go international, there's a lot of reference to wanting to be a global player in the case study. And remember, guys, it's going to be Learning Unit 4, and we haven't seen this in a while. The foreign entry, foreign market entry modes. It does, yeah, justify your choice, guys. We will mark anything that potentially could be right. We don't pay a lot of attention to the memo because it's interpretive, and you can support your arguments unless you write rubbish. Then we can't help you, obviously. Right. And then yeah, this idea of, again, absolutely 100%, Kim. So guys, in this one, it's again from the last learning unit. No, sorry, this is from learning unit 5. This is also a question that we haven't seen in a while. It is from strategic leadership. This used to pop up year after year, and then it disappeared for a while. So you'll see that in terms of the strategic leadership, there is you'll oh gosh, my apologies. Let me just try and move this where I need it to be.
I also think in
This
strategic
question,
leadership, it'll be transactional and transformational, visionary, transactional, transformational in the slide
yeah,
set as well.
keep those in mind, guys. That also lends itself. We haven't seen this question in a while, and I think I've been doing this for 14 years. And initially, they asked this every year. So this does lend itself to it, the case study. So it's in my slides, it's slide 21, but the full discussion is on the slides after that. So that's the summary, and it's those 5 steps. We haven't seen that in a while, but it used to be all the time. It was asked all the time, and it has disappeared, obviously, as the developer has changed. Guys, and then just again, the focus on stakeholders. I really believe that this case study lends itself to stakeholders. And then a question that I put in, the idea of capabilities, again, from the organizational architecture. We haven't seen that in a while, but this also has appeared in terms of the stuff that I've looked at. So, yeah, and it won't be that one. Yeah, sorry, it is that one. No, sorry, and I'm talking absolutely rubbish because I'm looking at the wrong information. Sorry, this is the one I meant, guys. Hasn't been asked in a while, the competencies in terms of, and I hope I didn't write that wrong. Oh my gosh. Apologies, and I'm updating it there. So for me, learning unit 6, boy. So it's learning unit 6. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right. So for me, this is what I would do. I would I would work out the answers to those. It's good practice. Again, knowing that I cannot predict exams. The non-negotiables, you know what those are. The business level, the evaluation of business levels, the corporate strategies. I would learn those first and last. And then once I've learned the answers that I've worked out to that, you still have to study everything, guys. We can't exclude anything because sometimes the questions that get asked don't make sense in the case study. But for me, if I were to approach this, I would work out these answers. And I hope that I'm close. And we were pretty good in first semester. Not perfect, we're never perfect. I would then learn the non-negotiables. And then, unfortunately, in between, you need to learn everything else. Any questions at this stage? Yeah, no, I'm good. Nate, I've uploaded this onto our group already. It's on our WhatsApp group. It will be put on VC Learn just now. Kim, I don't know what you guys think in terms of my approach. Em?
I think it's great, Henny. I think you've done such a great job of preparing these questions, and thank you for taking the time to work out the questions. You know, even if your crystal ball is not 100% spot on, you know, it still gives us and the students a very good idea of how we can approach the questions and all that. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. Guys, for me, I really, no, don't worry about that. I saw that, Em. Anything from your side in terms of the approach that I've suggested?
I think it's an excellent approach you've suggested. Those are like the big key areas that you'd possibly focus on, and going over the big key areas, you see the smaller sections as well. It's exactly what I would have said to my students, my full-time students. So I think it's very much spot on. And I think it helps because we've all, like across us lecturers, we've all been on this program for quite a while. So like, as you say, you've got 14 years of experience with looking at papers. I've probably been on this program for about 4 years full-time. So I really think the knowledge together works really well in terms of what we're spotting or what we're thinking. Just got to trust the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, sometimes, you know, one of these questions, you might have worked it out for King Price and it's asked in Bathu, but you've worked out the theory in King Price and you can just simply then steal the information. Okay. Who's Bobby Keller?
And also by going through the case studies and answering the questions, it's forcing you to get into the theory and it's forcing you to work with your textbook. I find a lot of students just want to learn like random stuff. But if you're doing the actual question and get an answer, you have, if you've worked on one section, as you say, you can work it across all the case studies generally.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, guys. Turns absolute pleasure. So in terms of the theory and application, so if we look here, I just want to go to this thing, the IIE material. I should have actually kept this open. They actually tell us in terms of the exam brief. So hold on a second. You'll see that they've given us a suggestion of what the rubric would look like. So you can have a glance at this. It normally is this kind of breakdown. It depends. Certainly, question one, because it's going to be business level strategy, won't be 4. I can promise you that it will be either 6 or 7. It's possibly 6 or 7. And then you'll see that it is weighted in favor of application, but you have to give us foundational stuff, guys. Yeah, so this is what we have. This is what we're given. Now, obviously, it doesn't make sense in terms of what the questions are, but it has this look. And yeah, so for me, in terms of the first one, the theory for business level will be about 6, 7. The application will be about 7, 8. Corporate level, the same thing, and everything else in between. But that's what we have, and that's what we mark on. So you'll see it in your paper as well when it's given to you. But you have to give us both the theory plus the application. And guys, please show us this is theory, this is application. Don't make our lives difficult by trying to be too clever. And honestly, don't be too clever this time. Okay.
What I also, just to add, what I also tell my students is when you're going through like your reading time, go to the rubric, you'll see the mark allocation per question. I almost tell my students per point to write down what the mark allocation is so that you can go back and see, oh, it's 10 marks, okay, 5 marks theory, 5 marks application, kind of in your brain, rather than trying to guess. Go to the rubric. Look, the rubric will tell you exactly what's theory, what's application, and then quickly write it onto your paper so you're guided with how much to write. That's what I tell my full-time students.
Yeah. And guys, can I also just say, read your questions first, and then read your case study. Don't do it the other way around. Questions first, and obviously allocate the marks as you read those questions. That is heck of important. Okay. Sorry, who said Bobby Keller on here? Somebody wrote that. Please don't tell me you're comparing me to that oak. Okay, guys, anything else? Yeah, 50%, guys. Yeah, obviously, if you email me Castle Lights, I'll make sure that my classes pass. I like that. I like that. Trust the process. Right, Nate, you've just failed, boy. You're in so much trouble. You've failed. Right, any other comments? I'm going to stop